record. And let me welcome our streaming audience in. And we are looking good now. So let me welcome first Elizabeth and Patti to the stage. And we're going to get to know them a little bit better, and then we will welcome Joy. So first off, thank you so much for partnering with us on this discussion and bringing Joy live and in person to the DC Baltimore area, but also to today's discussion. Let me start with Patti, because Patti, you and I have known each other for years.
Yes.
And Patti, you represent the Residents at Vantage Point. Tell us a little bit about your background and Residents at Vantage Point, and I am going to drop in the website for everybody as well.
Great. Well, thank you for having this panel discussion. It's a great topic. A lot of people have an interest in it. I myself have known you for a long time. I've been in the business for 30 couple years, worked in a number of retirement communities, and I'm currently at Residences at Vantage Point. I've been here for about 6 years. It is a wonderful nonprofit life plan community in downtown Columbia. We are part of a age-friendly community as well. So there's a lot of push for that, and a lot of great things happening here. We are super excited to host Joy Loverde next week as part of our Fall Compass seminar series. So we're hosting 4 separate seminars relating to aging or caring for others who may be aging. And I'm sure you'll get some more information about what's coming up. Her solo aging seminar, as well as how to help your parents if they don't think they need help.
Oh, wow. Boy, that's a hot topic. Helping parents when they refuse help. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Retirement living options. So an in-depth discussion of all of the different types of options for aging, whether it's in your home or elsewhere. And then if you're going to be transitioning, how to get that done, because so many times our stuff is what keeps us planted in our homes.
Oh
So
man, I'm
I hope
telling you,
everyone can
yeah,
join us.
you've really got it covered with this series here. And I am dropping that link so that folks can check that out and RSVP if they're in the region. But
Mhm.
but here we've got, Residents at Vantage Point. So this is great. Now we've also got today Elizabeth, who is with Life Care Services. And folks, just so you know, Life Care Services is the management company for Residents at Vantage Point. And hopefully you can all see on the screen, these are where all the Life Care Services communities are located, as you can see, all over the country. But Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about yourself and the role that you play at Life Care Services. And I know I've got a slide deck that I can pull up as well.
Hey, while you're pulling that up, I also was a sales and marketing director like Patty. I did that for 10 years in Pennsylvania for a Life Care Services managed community. Now I'm a regional director of marketing and sales, where I support communities with marketing strategies and occupancy management. And there's duplicates of me throughout the United States. You saw that map there, but we support about 140 communities. So
Wow.
there I am right there. So I want to just tell you briefly about why it's important to have a management company. So Life Care Services, one of the most best things are specialized knowledge. Our communities, we go in because we understand the uniqueness and the needs and regulations of senior living, and we can implement industry best practices, the operational efficiency. You have that up there for me. Also financial management, regulatory compliance. That would be like handle risk management and resident services. That's would be just tailoring the needs of the residents with activity planning, like organized social, recreational, and wellness activities. Staffing and training is important. We have a whole HR team team that can come in and help recruit, train, and manage the staff, and that leads to higher employee retention. Marketing, that's me. We're really important to have effective strategies and promotions so we can bring in new residents and manage that occupancy. But might manage like wait lists and prospective resident inquiries, again, to get more people in to enjoy our communities. Crisis management is important. We have emergency preparedness, like if there's going to be a hurricane or a snowstorm, and lately some flooding. We've had some 8 inches of rain and gosh, 3 hours in Connecticut, and we were prepared for that. Problem resolution, that's important too. If any conflicts arise, we ensure a quick resolution. Strategic planning is very important too. That's setting long-term goals and objectives, develop a plan and we achieve them, and setting mission and vision statements. Innovation's key. Very important to stay ahead of our competitors. Innovation example I have there during COVID. So some people didn't want people touching their food, so we had robots delivering their food. Talk about innovation. All right, scalability and flexibility, that's in the bottom right-hand corner. That's where we're adapting of, should we scale our services up? Should we scale them down? Maybe it's time to have an expansion, and we can do that. Maybe we need to build more villas and apartments, and resource allocation. And the last thing there is the quality of life. If we're doing all of these things, we are going to enhance the quality of life and focus on our residents. So the next slide is just going to basically recap everything I just said in words instead of those cute little icons I made. And the most important thing I would like to say is on the next slide is that we at Life Care Services have been awarded the J.D. Power Award 5 years in a row for customer satisfaction for independent living. That we started in 2018. We got it the first year and every year since. And also last year in 2023, we got it for assisted living and memory care. And now the surveys will go out for 2024, and I'm most certain we're going to win this again. But I would like to invite everybody that's watching, please go onto that website that Steve pointed out and come check out one of our communities. Many of you are visiting for Residents of Vantage Point, and you saw their website. Others are similar, and you can come to any of our events. But reach out to us, come for an experience, and we will follow up after this seminar too, and we'll invite you in for a visit. So thank you.
I love it. All right. Well,
Great.
hang
Thanks,
tight.
Elizabeth.
Hang tight, you two, because I want to now let's welcome Joy Loverde, who is our featured panel member today. And thanks so much for bringing her to us online today and in person next week. Joy, it's great to see you.
I'm so happy to be here with all my friends. I've known everybody for a very long time.
Yes. It's the three. Joy, I've known you almost as long as Steve.
That's right.
And it seems like this is an annual event, Patti, to bring her back to Vantage, the Residents at Vantage Point. So I'm assuming she
Pretty
gets
much
a great reception whenever she comes to town.
Yes, she brings in the crowds, and so we love having her. And she's an energetic, entertaining, and encyclopedic knowledge of anything to do with elder care in the industry. So we're so appreciative of her time.
I love it. All right. Well, Joy, for those that don't know you, I've got your website up here. Let's get to know you a little bit better. And I've known you as the author of The Complete Elder Care Planner and Who Will Take Care of Me When I'm Old, which folks can see on the screen. But tell folks a little bit about how did you get into this field? I actually don't know if I've heard this story recently.
Well, it happened when I was a high school volunteer going to a nursing home. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school, and the sister marched in the room when I was a freshman and said, "Who's going to the nursing home with me?" And I raised my hand because I was looking for extra credit, and I thought this would be a good way to make a name for myself in high school. But I arrived as a 14-year-old who saw 7 people sitting in the dark on Thanksgiving morning. And that woke me up, and I have never looked back. I was committed to helping people begin to have conversations with each other. So that was the first edition of the Complete Elder Care Planner. But about 10 years ago, I noticed that the people who were coming up to me after a talk would say, I'm taking care of people, but who's going to take care of me? And so now we've come full circle.
I love it. All right. Well, today's discussion, we had a little brainstorming session, me, you, and Patti, on, hey, what should we talk about that hasn't really been talked about before? And you know, and folks, this can always take on the broad topic of solo aging, but we thought it might be a good idea to let's focus on what it feels like to live alone. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can have family all over the country. You can have people that care about you all over the country, but you know, when you're living alone, there are some special considerations and things that we need to think about. And is this a topic that you find that you know comes up in a lot of your discussions?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'm so glad that you made the distinction between solo agers and living alone, because many of the people that I'm dealing with now are planning as though they are solo agers, meaning they don't have family around them, or they do have children, and the children are not exactly volunteering for the role of caregiver. So yes, there's a big distinction between living alone and having people around you, but they're not available, right? So that's big. So one of the biggest things we have to do is start thinking about relying on people that are going to come and go, instead of thinking, well, there might be family around. There's a good chance that won't happen. So that's one thing. Plan as though you are living alone, even if you aren't now.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of conversations on this as well. Is that the it can sometimes seem, especially if you've got a partner or if you've got a roommate, to oh, why would I even imagine what life would be like without my wife? But you know, there is a high probability that one of us is going to outlive the other, and and sort of thinking about, you know, is this inappropriate? Do I know how to, you know, take care of the household maintenance things? Do I know how to live in this home that I'm living in now all by myself?
Yeah, no, there was a startling study that came out in 2021, and it said that most spouses do not talk to each other about the fact that one of them is going to outlive each other. Isn't that crazy?
And I think a lot of the reason is that it's sad. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, it can appear to be sad, but it's also it can also be one of these. It's a difficult conversation, and but what I've found, and trust me, folks, I'm in the same boat, is talking about this actually. It seems counterintuitive, but talking about these eventualities oftentimes makes you think about how you're living today and opportunities that you can take advantage of. Now,
Yeah.
I knew this was going to happen. We've got a question that already popped in, and it's a great one from Jacqueline. Thank you. Is please clarify the difference between a solo ager and living alone. I've got some thoughts on this, but Joy, I'm curious at how you respond to this question.
Okay, so a solo ager is someone who has to rely on the support of others, even if they have children, because it's not to be assumed that the children will be available or willing to take care. So a solo ager says, okay, I've got to go out of my network, of my family network, whatever that is, and go into the world of professionals. All right. So now we have people that we don't know in the beginning. to begin to create a relationship so that we can build trust. A solo ager has to create their own network of support. Someone who is living alone, that's another ball game, could be a solo ager. And also what they have to do is they have to think about becoming the CEO of their own home immediate environment. So now they're in charge of everything. So living alone means managing every single thing that goes on in the house. And so that's people living alone, constantly managing what that's like.
That's a great distinction. And folks, like, one of the things that I have discovered here with this term solo aging is that sometimes, and when I first heard it, what popped into my mind was, it's somebody who's never married and doesn't have family, or maybe somebody who's widowed and has outlived their whole family. But in reality, it's all of us are potentially, if we might be connected right now to a support network that helps us with the household management. So in my house, it's a team effort. It's me and my wife, and I do things and she does things. But I love how you describe that, Joy, because if either I am gone or my wife is gone, it's 100% on the person who's living alone there, their shoulders.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, I mean, it's so some of those factors that come into play have to do with the ability to make really good decisions all by yourself. That's really, can we do that? Do we have a support network outside of our house that helps us make good decisions? Because living alone is we don't have anybody, like you said, to bounce things off. Also, one income. If we're living alone and we have to rely on me, myself, and I for financial stability, then other means of support financially have to come into play, especially if your house is starting to fall apart and you got to keep it up.
Now, Joy, I'm glad you brought up income, because
Yep.
In nearly every one of our discussions, and Rose, I heard you. I get excited if you can't tell, and I use my hands, but I'm going to keep my hands down here just for Rose today. But but affordability oftentimes comes up, okay, especially in solo aging discussions. And one of the things that I like to remind folks of is that when we're raising, if we had kids and we're raising our kids, we didn't write a check for all of the care to our kids. We had a network of friends, neighbors, family, schools that supported us. But we've got a big date on Friday night and don't have anybody to take care of our children. Now we're writing a check to a provider, a babysitter or a childcare provider. And I want people to think about the solo aging experience a little bit in the same way. But I will tell you, because I've talked to hundreds, it's a lot easier to talk to people about finding a babysitter than finding somebody that can help me with the gutters or mow the lawn or come by and take me to a grocery store.
Steve, can I just jump in here real quick? Because there's a big, huge myth about the affordability of aging in place versus going somewhere else, living in a community lifestyle, and that there's an assumption that living in a life plan community or the community lifestyle is expensive or more expensive than it is to stay at home. And I can't tell you there's nothing further than the truth. It's just that people are afraid to do their homework and find out about the difference. How much it costs to have somebody mow your lawn once a week or shovel the snow. It's crazy. But if you do your homework, you find out that other options are available. If you don't want to live alone and you don't have a lot of money, you've got to look into other options.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. Now, Joy, I forgot where it was, but I think you did either a blog post on it or I heard you speaking somewhere else. But I was half listening, you were talking about something called the 2030 problem. And before I forget, I wanted to ask you about that. And hopefully it relates to what we're talking about today, living alone and solo aging. But what is the 2030 problem?
I'm so glad you heard me say that, because people are very unaware of this. So there are, being in the industry, I am saturated with articles. I have Google alerts on every single thing. And a lot of it has to do with trends in what's going on in the years ahead, especially for us baby boomers. So before I get into the 2030 problem, I want you to know that there are certain factors that are leading up to what's going to be happening in 2030. For example, next year, Gen X is quietly going to be entering into the care zone. They start to turn 60. So that's a little quiet rumble going on in the population. Then in 2 years from now, in 2026, an unprecedented number of care-needing boomers are going to begin to flood the long-term care zone. Let me give you an example. I wanted to get a hearing test, and I called my local hospital where I'm a part of a system. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll just have to wait a couple weeks to get an appointment. 5 months before I could get in the door. It's already happening with making appointments with the healthcare professionals. Now, here comes the 2030 problem. All of the boomers are going to be over the age of 65. This means the boomer caregivers are going to become the boomer care receivers. Now, why is this significant? Because the window for planning for care is closing. People are making assumptions that they can go anywhere and be accepted, and that there will be space at life plan communities, at assisted living, at memory support, at places we assume that there were always availabilities. They are now starting to hang no vacancy signs on the door. And I'll tell you something very surprising that most people don't know, unless they're shopping right now for community care or the community lifestyle. Most of the people on the wait list are people in their 60s. And that's because they are well aware of the fact that there will be no room in the inn for them later on.
Man, yeah, I think this is uncharted territory for us, this demographic shift, and and we don't know what is going to be around the corner, and we're hearing it right now. Is that and you know, there's some providers where they've got vacancy, but they don't have the staff to
Well, let me just say something about that. They have a better chance of having the staff than people who stay home and assume that there will be help in the in-home care industry. So if a person wants to work in the industry, they're going to go where they can get benefits and full-time work, and they have a nice environment. So many of the care workers who are on the outside are leaving those positions to go to either other jobs completely or going to employers who could pay them well and with benefits. So I'm not so concerned about any community that is set up, especially like we just heard about the importance of a management company behind these senior living age life plan communities, because those are the management companies who help keep our communities stable financially. There's a lot of risk aging in place, so much.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want people to be discouraged, but they have to ask different questions. If they want to stay home, and God love them, I want them to, if that's what they want. But they have to plan. You can't say, I'm just going to put a grab bar in the shower. Nope. it's got to go far beyond that.
Yeah, and I know we're talking a lot about communities, and we will, because as I was recently talking to a solo ager who was really distraught about the fact that she didn't have the support that she had when she had a tight group of friends that lived around. I sort of brought up if you move to a community, whether it be a senior living community or even just a multifamily apartment building or condo, you'd have people around you in close proximity to
That's right.
support you. But let's kind of take a step back and let's sort of, because we know the AARP study has said, 95% of Americans prefer to age in place as long as possible.
Right.
Let's talk about living alone and aging in place, and what are some of the solutions there?
Okay, I am a case in point. I live in what's called a NORC. Have you ever heard that term, NORC?
Well, I've heard it, but I'll drop it in. It's a naturally occurring retirement community.
There you go. I live in a naturally occurring retirement community. What this is I live in an apartment building. I live in Chicago. There are 40 floors in my building. We know each other. Most of the people who live here know each other on the floor, and we naturally are taking care of each other. So that's the definition of a NORC. I currently take care of a 96-year-old neighbor, and I babysit for the dogs. I'm a dog sitter. I help my neighbors, and they help me. People come over and when I need help. So this is a naturally occurring system. Now, the whole building isn't taking care of each other. We have very, very young people here with babies and all kinds of generations. And we have activities that are put on by the building. And we're having a game night come out next month. So this is a NORC is you stay in your home because you love it so much, and then young people come and go, but you're surrounded by people that you like. You choose who you like, and they like you, and you all take care of each other.
All right, let me check a few of the questions that we've got, and I want to dive back into number one, living in a NORC, also living in an urban environment. I want your thoughts on that too. So Denise asks, what role do you see villages playing in supporting folks who are aging in place and who can't afford to move to a community?
I think people are beginning to learn about village to village concept. That's another thing where you can you Google that one and then see if there's one in the area. But basically, it's going to take effort to get to know your neighbors. Start with your local resources, your area agency on aging. Get to know the local people. And one other thing, you can see if the in-home care services are available from a local nursing home or assisted living or life plan community. So there is assistance coming in that way. Of course, we all want to rely on friends and neighbors, so you have to get to know them and be willing to help each other. But that usually starts with a conversation.
And I'm dropping in the locator map for the village to village network so folks can see if there's one in your community. But one thing that I tell folks is, you can join a village, but you still want to build your own personal village.
Right.
And the thing that you talk about in living in a NORC, that's actually very easy, or a multifamily apartment or condo building, because your neighbors are all around you. They're on the hallway. You could hang out in the lobby and you're going to meet your neighbors. Whereas those of us who live in suburban single family streets, it might be a little bit more difficult, but I have talked to so many people over the last decades, and just when your neighbor's out there getting the mail, is just bringing up a conversation about how can I help you? How could you help me?
Right. I know you have a session coming up about senior centers. I advise everybody to check out the local senior centers. There is so much available, so much help, and they typically have volunteers. They'll drive you all over the place. Plus, if you're in the suburban area, you can look at different youth groups and schools that have volunteers. I know of, like you, I've researched, I know how much help is available, but the one factor remains the same. It takes effort.
And we've got some good questions here. One of the things that I wanted to bring up too, Joy, is a lot of times when we think about aging in place, we think about accessible entryways, grab bars in the bathrooms, things of that nature. But one of the things I want people to think about is something much more basic and simple, and that's screwing in the light bulb in the ceiling of one of your rooms there. Is that it? Number one, is that safe for you to do? And if it's not, who could you get to do that? And think about those tasks first before you start thinking about the grab bars, because if you can solve that solution, you're gonna be on your way, and it's a lot easier to talk about light bulbs than grab bars. The cool thing is, in your building, I bet you they have somebody that will come to your apartment and
24/7. We have doormen, and if you don't have a doorman, you have neighbors. But the thing is what you're alluding to. The plan here is you have to get your resources before you need them. And the best source to talk to right now are people who are already living alone and have created their own network of resources. And like I said, start in your own backyard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Now, Helen has a question here, and it's how many years in advance should someone try to get into a life plan community, which is also known as a CCRC or continuing care retirement community? The average age of the members of these communities is usually in their early 80s. Seems to be a big gap between the late 60s and 80s. Now, I'm not cutting you off here, Joy. Helen, I want to share with you, if you happen to be in the DC metro market at that moving and downsizing event that I'm hosting, we actually have a guy on our panel who moved into a life plan community in his 60s. He absolutely loves it, but his situation is unique to him. And that's one of the things that I would say is we're all different, and age is just a number. But Joy, what do you think about Helen's question about what age and when should we start doing this?
It doesn't, like you said, age is not a factor here. It is your peace of mind is all that matters. But I do know that people in their 60s, many of them, I travel all over the United States giving talks at senior living communities, and I gotta tell you, the age of the people coming to my seminars is getting lower and lower. I have people in my 40s planning ahead.
Okay. Now, Kathleen, I love real life stories, and Kathleen, thanks for sharing this. And folks, you can, if you have solutions to any of the questions or comments that are being shared, drop them into chat. This is a community here. But Kathleen says, when I was younger, I imagined life as an old person similar to my grandmother. At age 89, she lived by herself in a house and had to be told that she should not try to remove the limbs from the trees by herself. Now, Kathleen says, I'm 89 with severe movement issues and from osteoarthritis. I did not think that as an old person, I would not be fully capable of doing whatever I want. And this goes to what I like to say, Joy, is the crystal ball. Okay. None of us have a crystal ball. Life throws all of us curveballs. And Kathleen, thanks for sharing that. But Joy, what do you think about Kathleen's comment? It's sort of like you look at your ancestors and it's like, oh, I'm going to be fine.
Right. Exactly that. None of us have that crystal ball. We can't see it. So what is better? It always comes down to one question for me. is how much in control do I want to be with my life going forward, no matter what. So I don't look at it as a need for care so much as I look at it for a need to plan for a quality of life. I don't care if I live in a wheelchair. If I have a quality of life, I'm happy, I'm good to go. So that's how I look at it. If it means that I have to plan financially to have that quality of life, if it means that I have to move to have that quality of life, I don't care what. It means that I want to go forward at every step of the way and continuously assess what is my quality of life now and how can I maintain what I want.
And I'm really glad you brought up like you're active, you're exercising, but you brought up I might be in a wheelchair. Like
That's
none
right.
of us have that crystal ball. I want to share something because we were talking about life plan communities, and years ago I interviewed a gentleman whose wife encouraged them to move to a life plan community. And he said to me, he said, I didn't want to move in here. And the reason I didn't want to move in here is that I saw some people using canes, wheelchairs, and walkers. And I was like, I can't live in a place like that. And he said, then 6 months after moving in, he had an illness that put him in a wheelchair. And he's like, I can't believe that I was viewing my friends here that I know now, not as somebody sitting in a wheelchair, but as somebody that I love and care about. And I judged them because they were using a mobility device. And I just wanted to share that. Hopefully it's helpful to some folks. Okay. Let's see here. Carol says one potential resource I thought of when you mentioned light bulbs is check with your local fire departments. In my county, they will come out and change the batteries in the smoke detectors for you, which is much better than climbing. And Carol, even though not having the light bulb in is a tripping hazard, I really want to make sure everybody has their smoke detectors working. And I wonder wouldn't that be a wonderful service for fire departments that if they had the time to do like a safety check and help older homeowners with their lighting and things of that nature?
That used to be the case. We could also have them come and do a home inspection, but the world has changed and they're very, very busy. I live, like I said, downtown Chicago, and sirens are going off all day long. So I have known that they are now, there's a falling service that they provide, but only up until a point. So if you live alone and you fall and you call 911, they will come and pick you up, but there's only so many times that they will do that. So putting stress on the department to come and change the battery is, to me, not a good idea.
Well, yeah, I mean, finding a solution, but
Yeah.
it's a good idea to get to know your local fire department, the emergency rescue, this, that, and the other.
Let them know that you live alone.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Have a system.
Okay, Annette, I love Annette's comment here. She says, I'm a financial planner and I'm trying to encourage clients to get an aging plan together. What resources do you recommend I provide for them to vet communities or think about a plan as care is not in my field? Number one, Annette, joining in on these discussions is a great way to educate you on sort of the zeitgeist of senior living and be a valuable resource for your clients. But Joy, what are some of the things that a financial planner like Annette should be aware of when she's working with her clients?
It's funny, I was going to say the same thing, is to attend your webinars and to attend anybody's webinars that will fill in the blanks as to what's going on. So you could spend 24/7 online going to webinars and hearing professionals speak about the needs. So I would just narrow it down as a financial planner to 3 things so you won't be overwhelmed as a professional. Besides the need for financial stability for a long life, there is a need to learn more about housing and housing with services, and then also partnering with an elder law attorney. Very important, because financial planning goes hand in hand with having legal documents in order.
And also, Annette, like, use your clients as your educator. So for example, if one of your clients, maybe one of your clients actually has moved into a retirement community, go and visit them and attend events there and get to know their neighbors. But then also, if one of your clients is interested, let's say in a senior living community, offer to accompany them on the tours and sort of find out what their needs are. I will tell you, those of us in this profession, we're 50% financial, legal, professional, and we're 50% social worker and care manager. And that's a great way to distinguish yourself amongst your clients. Ruth says, I live in a NORC, which I love. And remember, folks, NORC is naturally occurring retirement community. But I'm also a member of my local village, and I'm a member of Goodwin Living at Home, which is a unique program called Continuing Care at Home. But I take your point about the possibility of it being hard to find in-home nursing care should I need it in the future. For that reason, I'm on the wait list at a couple of life care communities, and I'm seriously thinking about moving to one in 3 to 4 years. I'll be 80 next year. I'm very active, in good shape, but I don't know how long. Number one, man, Ruth, I wish everybody could be as open-minded and think like you, and you're an inspiration to all of us. It's not hard to have that mindset that you've just shared. And but I think it's very healthy. Okay. Let's see. Michelle says, there are people who were born with a disability and use wheelchairs who've had a great quality of life. Actually, Michelle, I'm glad that you brought that up. I have scheduled, I believe in November, this amazing woman who has been using a wheelchair since she was a teenager. And I'm going to have her on. She's going to talk about her, the thoughts that go on with her with aging and aging in place and what have you.
Boy, I think everybody should hop on that webinar, because I know so many people who are using some kind of assisted device and they are living full out. And if that happens to me, that will be me. I will figure out a way to do senior Olympics in my wheelchair.
Yeah. Okay. Let me, okay. Ooh. Let me get, Patti, do you mind jumping back on again, real quick? Because we got a question from Carol, and her question is, how does one evaluate the medical care available in a life plan community? And Patti is with the Residents at Vantage Point. Patti, maybe give us some perspective. I'm looking at your community and 2 others. How might I evaluate the medical care?
Sure. Well, I always encourage people to actually visit the community and either casually or have an interaction arranged with residents, ask them their opinion. You can always look on the CMS, Centers for Medicare Medicaid Services, for the specifically skilled nursing quality ratings. But because CCRCs, or life plan communities, offer a range of healthcare from drop-in blood pressure checks and walk-in clinic type services to primary care services. There's a range of medical type care that you can ask about, but really visiting and asking people who either live there or have family that may be living there or has lived there. Get their opinions.
Right. And I hope that helped answer it. And number one, so Patti, if somebody came through your door and they were concerned about medical care, and I said, hey, Patti, could I talk to a resident that has been in some of the received medical care here? Would you be able to introduce me to somebody?
Absolutely. I'd be able to introduce several, some who had short-term rehab, or others perhaps had a spouse living in the long-term care, whether it assisted living or the long-term nursing care.
Yeah, so folks, I mean, I think number one, if you're looking at a place and you ask the folks there, the leadership team, can I talk to somebody who's been in the medical care, and they don't provide an introduction the way Patti just said, that's probably a red flag. And the CMS ratings are good, trust me, okay? But also bear in mind, it's one point in time. It's, you know, when the inspectors come in. What I often also say is come with the CMS report and say, hey, can you explain how you got this 5-star rating or 3-star rating or 4-star rating, whatever it is. Now, I got another life plan community question, Patti. And Ruth asks, what is the cost incurred of getting on a wait list at a senior living community? How does that work in your community to get on the wait list?
Well, to get on the wait list, every community is unique. Once you've visited one community, you've visited one. And financial structures vary widely around the country. Some will offer a wait list for a very nominal upfront investment. Ours starts at a $1,000 fully refundable deposit to join our priority list, up to we ask for a larger investment for our sort of short-term wait list, which has some additional benefits, but every community does it a little bit differently.
Okay, great. Okay, now let me look at the clock. Man, I knew we were going to be burning through this hour. Joy, while I'm looking at some of the questions, anything that any words of wisdom that on living alone that we may have not touched on, either through me or the audience asking you questions that you want to make sure that we all know about?
Yeah, like when you live alone and if you suspect that you might be becoming forgetful, no, it's not everybody, but it does increase our ability to be safe and secure. So one of the things that I like to do, and this is especially for people who are concerned about living alone and having their money managed, is maybe taking a look at the trust department at their local bank and doing something like that early on, so that forgetfulness does not cause problems, and being ahead of it ahead of time. One of the things that I always have to say is equally important is the ability to keep up with technology. So surround yourself right now with people who could help you stay in touch with what is it going to take if you're going to live alone, what is it going to take to get your technology up to speed, but also if it breaks down, how will you stay connected? And there's many resources in your neighborhood, and so I would look at that.
Excellent. Okay. Man, tons of great comments that are being thrown into chat here, and I'm cutting and pasting some that might only be seen by just me. Diane asks, is the medical care mentioned in the fees of the life plan communities, or does one have to use personal insurance or pay out of pocket? How does that work in your community, Patti? Oh, unmute. Yep.
Sorry. Well, medical care depends on which financial option you've chosen at the community you're looking at. There are typically 3 primary financial plans through the residency agreement. There's life care, there's fee for service, and then there's a modified life care. Nursing care and the higher levels of care, assisted living, memory care, et cetera, are covered differently in each of those 3 types of communities. Under life care, the benefit of that is your fees remain relatively stable throughout the full continuum from independent living through assisted living and nursing. In a fee-for-service model community or under a fee-for-service residency agreement, the fees change from independent living to assisted living and nursing care at the time you use those higher levels of care. So there's a big difference in that when you look from community to community and what might be the best plan for you. And of course, if you're working with a financial advisor, that would be a great discussion to have.
Patti, one of the questions I always get at one of my seminars is, what about long-term care insurance? Can you add some depth to that conversation?
Absolutely. Long-term care insurance is a great benefit and can be used at life plan communities to cover those costs of healthcare, future healthcare and assisted living or nursing care. Of course, as long as your policy includes those services. Long-term care insurance is a reimbursable payment. It's not paid directly to your community. So you could use any of, either of those life care or fee for service or modified plans with a long-term care insurance policy. But they're great to have, but they're getting few and far between these days.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay. So a couple of questions because you brought up technology, and one, Cheryl says that her children are IT specialists, but they lose patience with her on tech.
Right.
And then
right.
So she was wondering if you've got some solutions for folks, or Wendy was wondering on getting up to date with tech.
Yeah, definitely. There, if you Google tech advisors in home, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. But these are people who come to your house. Again, you got that safety thing going on there. But also, they can work with you online and just gain access to your computer. But these are relationships that I would only get if I had a referral. So I would talk to somebody and say, hey, who does your tech support? And there are plenty of people who do this online, and I would do that now. I know lots and lots of people who use professionals in that way. And you're right. I mean, it's our grandchildren who help us get out of a fix, but, they're busy.
And I dropped into chat an organization. If you can get on a Zoom call like this, but you don't even need to, you can call them up. There's an organization called GoGo Quincy. We had a discussion with them, and they'll provide a limited amount of free support, but then it's pretty affordable. But they focus on providing tech support to older adults. So check that out. Okay. Rose is asking to Patti, and it's when you were talking about long-term care insurance, you said few and far between. And one thing, not to kind of jump the gun on here, is that when long-term care insurance was started, they sold tons of policies. They didn't realize how hard it was going to be to run a company and pay out those policies. So the policies have become more expensive and less policies are being sold. I think that's what you were talking about, right?
That's exactly it, 100%, Steve, that companies that had been offering long-term care policies are backing away from offering new policies. And many of them are raising rates significantly such that many people couldn't afford them. So that's what I mean by few and far between.
Yeah. And Jennifer Alate with Life Care Affordability Plan says, check out your local senior center. My 87-year-old dad does tech support at the senior center in his hometown. And
there you go.
Senior centers are a great resource. And I'm glad that we're having the discussion next week on reinventing the senior center, because sometimes I'll get somebody on the phone and they may feel like they don't have connections. I was like, well, go to the senior center in your area. Oh, I don't want to go to a senior center. And one of the things, folks, I want you to understand what sometimes is going on in our minds. The reason that we say, I don't want to move to a senior community, or I don't want to go to a senior center, it's age segregation, okay? But it's not segregating for bad reasons. It's segregating because here's a bunch of people that can be connected. And so try to take the stigmas and the name on the sign and put that behind you, and look at the individuals that are there, and the fact that you could walk in and somebody might be able to help you with your cell phone. Okay. There was another question that I wanted to address. Oh, shoot. Somebody said, I want to know about where do I find a list of Norks and a list of villages. I'm dropping in the list of villages, and Joy, there is no, to my
Here's the
knowledge,
bad news. Yeah, here's
there's
the
no
bad news.
directory of Norks. Okay.
No, but if you are interested, what you can do is begin to do your own research. You'll have to do it on foot, is to actually visit different apartment buildings where you see people coming and going of all ages, and begin to be observant, and then start to talk to actually doormen are really friendly, and you can say, hey, you know what, how would you say is the average age around here? And just ask questions. But unfortunately, it's usually word of mouth.
And here's a little trick that I use to help people do this, is look at grocery stores. That I will tell you, the most important thing to be close to is a grocery store. So if I was thinking I want to get out of my single family home and go to a place where maybe I can have a more carefree, car-free lifestyle, the first thing I'm going to look at is, where's my favorite grocery store? Now let me look at the apartment buildings or housing that is near there. And my gut level feeling is you will find a fair amount of people who are over a certain age living in those communities, because you can basically live car free.
Yeah, it does take the wherewithal to, if you are in the suburbs, you'd have to bite the bullet and go to a more city environment where that is not unusual to be in the midst of many people, many ages, many resources, and that's the fact. But if that's not in your plan, even if you move to like what we have in Chicago, just like 3 floors, at least you're surrounded by other people. Living in a single family home is quite isolating, and can be.
Not every neighborhood's different. Now, the other cool thing is, it used to be that you only had density in cities like New York and Chicago and downtown Washington, D.C., but now we've got these little suburban, idyllic, village centers and things of that nature, town centers. These are great places to think about, and great places to discover Norks.
Yeah, if you Google longevity city, you'll be pleasantly surprised that these little groupings of, so houses are all together, and so's the grocery store and the local library and so on. So
I'm glad you brought that up. Another thing, a great website is Walk Score, and that can help you identify density. In addition to AARP and Longevity City have some AARP livability index is what it is.
Right.
Yes, and of course the age-friendly communities, which is also an AARP affiliation.
And Patti, you had said that your community, is it your community, or is it Columbia, Maryland, where your community is located, is age friendly?
Columbia, Maryland specifically is it certifies age-friendly community.
Wow, that's great. I mean, and what that shows, folks, to me is that this community is making a commitment. The leadership, the government is making a commitment to address the needs of all ages, and that's pretty cool. Holy cow, I can't believe this. Crystal says we need part 2. It's overtime. But once again, we're going to wrap things up. Most of our discussions last an hour, but when we talk about hot topics like this, we could go on for hours and hours. The good news is it's recorded. Share it with your friends, what have you. I'm glad we got Elizabeth there on hand. I want to thank Life Care Services and the residents at Vantage Point for helping us put this together today. And I know that all of you, if you're in the DC, Baltimore area, you're going to go running to Vantage House to get your book signed by Joy
And yeah,
next week.
Vantage Point Fall Compass Seminar Series.
Yeah, I've been around so long. When I remember when your community was built, and I still sometimes refer to it not as the residents at Vantage Point, the old name.
And we still love you, and we still invite you anytime.
Thank you. So any closing word, anything that any of you wanted to share that you didn't have the opportunity to share, but we're like the person said, we're going to set this up, and Anne, the recording will literally be available in the next half hour at proaging.com.
Right.
Thank you so much, everybody. This has been wonderful for me. I always learn, we're not the experts. Everybody's the expert, even from your audience. I love when they pipe in and I was like, wow, great idea.
Yes.
Thank you. And
thank
Rose,
you so much.
I'm sorry about
everyone
my
who
hands,
took
Rose.
time today.
Rose, I'm sorry about using my hands so much. You made me more aware of that, and I need to be more aware of that. But if you were here, and I would be giving you a big hug, Rose, with these meaty paws. Okay? So, anyways, y'all have a great weekend. It's Friday. This has really made my day. I think we've got a bunch of folks here in our community that are really taking charge of their own future, and just attending this is a step in the right direction. We got the people that are brave enough to attend these discussions. We got to get them out there.
Absolutely. I'd always love to give people credit for wanting to learn more and taking that step to educate themselves.
I love it. All right. We'll see y'all at the next one. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.